This is news analysis coming to you live on Politics and Business Television Abuja. Good afternoon and many thanks for joining us on the program for today. I'm Fatima Abubakar Oibo. The headlines. Resident doctors strike. Nigeria's healthcare faces fresh turmoil. Labor showdown. Nepeng vs. Dangote refinery sparks fuel supply fears. Airpeace pilots indicted for substance use after runway incident. And on the foreign scene, Poland and Ukraine tighten security ties amid rising cross-border tensions. Details of the story and more to come shortly after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Moving to the stories now, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors has launched a 5-day warning strike, citing unresolved welfare concerns and unpaid entitlement. The industrial action, which began at 8 a.m. today, follows the expiration of a final ultimatum issued to the federal government. In a formal declaration signed by NARD Secretary General Dr. Oluwashola Odumbaku, the association expressed deep frustration over what it described as persistent government inaction. Among the key demands are the release of the 2025 Medical Residency Training Fund, payment of 5-month salary arrears under the revised Consolidated Medical Salary Structure, and outstanding specialists and hazard allowances. The decision to strike was reached after a 6-hour emergency meeting of the National Executive Council, which concluded that further delays were unacceptable. The doctors had extended their initial ultimatum twice before issuing a final 24-hour notice, which expired on Thursday. With resident doctors forming the backbone of clinical services in Nigeria's public hospitals, the strike is expected to severely disrupt healthcare delivery nationwide. Patients are already being turned away, and hospitals are reporting increased strain on limited resources. NARD has called on center leadership to ensure full compliance while pledging to keep members updated as the situation unfolds. The uneasy peace between the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers and the $20 billion Dangote Petroleum Refinery has unraveled, plunging the sector into an intense industrial standoff. Nepeng accuses the Dangote Group of violating a memorandum of understanding signed earlier this week, which guaranteed workers the right to unionize. The fallout threatens fuel distribution nationwide and puts the federal government's labor enforcement mechanisms under scrutiny. Nepeng President Williams Akporeha alleged that Sayu Ali Ntata, a key figure in the refinery's logistics operations, disregarded the agreement reached on September 9th at the Department of State Services headquarters. Within 48 hours, Ntata reportedly instructed drivers to remove union insignia from their vehicles and bypass agreed loading protocols. Akporeha claimed Ntata flew overhead in a helicopter and summoned naval forces to intimidate union officials, saying members were bracing for confrontation if necessary. The union condemned what it called a blatant abuse of power and urged the federal government to prevent state-funded security forces from being weaponized against workers. Akbora has stressed that wealth should not shield anyone from accountability and that agreements brokered by government agencies must be respected. With tensions escalating, Nepeng has placed its members on high alert for a possible nationwide strike and called for solidarity from labor bodies and civil society. Reinforcements have reportedly been deployed to maintain the union's blockade at the refinery gates. Moving on now, the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau has released a damning preliminary report indicting an Airpeace pilot and co-pilot for operating under the influence of hard drugs and alcohol. The revelation follows a runway incursion involving the aircraft at Port Harcourt International Airport on July 13, 2025. According to the NSIB, toxicology tests confirmed the presence of illicit substances in the crew system, raising serious concerns about flight safety protocols. The incident occurred during a scheduled domestic flight from Lagos to Port Harcourt with 103 passengers on board. Investigators say the Boeing 737 aircraft landed far beyond the designated threshold on runway 21 after an unstable final approach, eventually coming to a halt 209 meters into the clearway. Though no physical damage was reported, the aircraft veering off the runway has now been linked to pilot intoxication, an alarming addition to the usual cases of runway incursions such as miscommunication and equipment failure. Mrs. Bimbo Olawumi Oladeji, Director of Public Affairs and Family Assistant at NSIB, signed off on the report, which has sparked renewed calls for stricter enforcement of crew fitness standards. The Bureau emphasized that the pilot's impaired judgment comprised the safety of everyone on board, with investigations ongoing. Aviation authorities are expected to take decisive action to prevent future lapses of this magnitude. You're still watching news analysis right here on Politics and Business Television Abuja. Still to come, power crisis deepens. 5.6 trillion naira debt threatens national grid stability. Details of this headline and more news content after a quick break, to stay with us. Welcome back. Now moving on to business matters. Nigeria is teetering on the edge of widespread blackout as gas suppliers begin cutting deliveries to power plants over a staggering 5.6 trillion naira debt owed to generation companies. The warning comes from Dr. Joy Ogaji, CEO of the Association of Power Generation Companies, who says the liquidity crisis in the sector has reached a breaking point. With plants operating below capacity and the national grid still recovering from a recent collapse, concerns are mounting over the country's ability to maintain electricity supply. Dr. Ogaji revealed that between January and August 2025, an additional 1.6 trillion naira in unpaid invoices piled onto existing debts. She recalled a July 25 meeting with President Bola Tinubu, where Gencos were assured of a 4 trillion naira bond program to ease the financial strain. However, nearly 2 months later, she says there's been no follow-up on how the debts will be settled. With 60% of Genco's revenue going to gas producers, the lack of payment is now directly impacting fuel supply to power stations. Despite the operator's commitment to keep the lights on, Ogaji warned that mounting challenges ranging from equipment maintenance to unpaid creditors are making it nearly impossible to sustain generation. She noted that gas suppliers have begun prioritizing clients who pay promptly, leaving Genco stranded. Without urgent reforms and intervention from the federal government, NBET and NERC, she cautioned the sector may not attract the private investment needed to support Nigeria's growth ambitions. On the foreign scene now, Poland's Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski arrived in Kyiv on Friday for high-level talks with his Ukrainian counterpart, Andriy Sybiga, as regional tensions escalate following a drone incursion into Polish airspace. The visit underscores growing concerns over the spillover effects of Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine. Sybiga shared an image of their meeting at a Kyiv train station, affirming that both nations stand united in the face of Russian aggression and provocations. The talks are expected to focus on joint security strategies, Ukraine's bid to join the European Union and NATO, and a coordinated diplomatic pressure on Moscow. The visit coincides with large-scale military exercises launched by Russia and Belarus, both of which share borders with Poland, raising alarm across NATO member states. Earlier in the week, Poland and its allies scrambled fighter jets to intercept over a dozen drones that breached its airspace, marking the first such incident since the war began in 2022. While Moscow has denied responsibility, claiming there's no proof the drones were Russian, the time and proximity of the drills have heightened regional anxieties. The Polish-Ukrainian meeting signals a deepening alliance aimed at countering destabilizing threats and reinforcing collective defense measures across Eastern Europe. And for sport news, now let's join Abel Sunday.
Welcome to P&B Sport News. I'm Abel Sunday. The Premier League is back this weekend and there's no shortage of drama on and off the pitch. Nottingham Forest have made a bold move, appointing former Tottenham boss Enjoy as their new manager. He's vowed to restore the club to his rightful place ahead of their huge clash with Arsenal. Over at Liverpool, record signing Alexander Isak could make his long-awaited debut when the Red face Burnley. As club showcase over £3 billion worth of summer signing, the spotlight will also be on Manchester, with both City and United desperate for a win in a highly charged derby. Meanwhile, West Ham have banned half and half scarves for their London derby against Tottenham, ramping up security. That's all for sport. I'm Abel Sunday.
Thank you, Abel Sunday. Welcome back onto the focus of the day. Today we talk about the World Suicide Prevention Day and breaking the silence in Nigeria. Let's move. September 10th marked World Suicide Prevention Day, a day set aside to raise awareness about one of the most pressing public health challenges of our time. Globally, nearly 800,000 people die by suicide every year. That's one person every 40 seconds. But closer to home, in Nigeria, suicide has become an increasingly worrying trend, often fueled by depression, unemployment, poverty, drug abuse, domestic violence, and lack of mental health support. The World Health Organization reports that Nigeria is among the African countries with rising suicide rates. Yet conversations around mental health remain clouded by stigma, silence, and cultural taboos. Too often, people suffer in isolation until it's too late. As the world reflects on suicide prevention, we must ask, what are the unique challenges Nigeria faces in tackling this silent crisis? Are enough resources being devoted to mental health? And how can families, communities, and government step up to save lives? After the break, we'll be joined via a WhatsApp call by Dr. Mustafa Abdullah, a consultant psychiatrist, to help us understand why suicide is on the rise in Nigeria and what can be done to save life. Stay with us, don't go anywhere. Welcome back. We've been looking at World Suicide Prevention Day and how it concerns Nigerians. Joining us now via a WhatsApp call is Dr. Mustafa Abdullah. He is a consultant psychiatrist with years in mental health advocacy and treatment. Dr. Abdullah, thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you very much for having me here.
Okay, so let me start by asking, from your professional experience, what are the key factors driving the rise in suicide cases here in Nigeria?
Yeah, suicide cases, unfortunately for us in Nigeria here, it's kind of underreported, and people still see this suicide as a joke, because I've had cases of in one of the highest risk factors for a completed suicide is a previous suicidal attempt, and unfortunately for us in Nigeria here, we still criminalize suicide, In fact, suicide, criminalize suicidal attempt. And suicidal attempt is one of the commonest risk factors for incompleted suicide. Suicide is, by way of definition, is a fatal act which is carried out deliberately with knowledge of its outcome, So, by way of there are so many factors that could be responsible for suicide. Number one, like I previously said, is suicidal attempt. The previous factor is depression. Of course, we all know about the economic crisis. There's all the economic downturn. People are not happy. The devaluation of the naira, making life
Those are like the social and economic pressures, right?
Social and economic pressures, So, and underlying mental health illnesses like depression, psychosis, schizophrenia, some personality disorders, and there is a rise in increase of substance use.
Okay. So
factors. There are also some psychological causes like hopelessness. And others. There are also social risk factors. Economic pressures coming. Yeah, and loss of reduced integration and over-regulation. Societies are over-regulated. They are known to have high rates of suicide.
Okay, so let's move to the mental health infrastructure. Nigeria has fewer than 300 psychiatrists for over 200 million people. How can the health system close this gap?
Yes, in fact, the last listing was done some years back, and every month, one psychiatrist is leaving, and because of the remunerations, people are not happy about what they earn here as psychiatrists. So many psychiatrists are leaving. By the way, we are making concerted efforts to close this gap. There is this initiative by the WHO, which was called Mental Health Gap Action Program, whereby we are supposed to train community health extension workers and other allied mental health workers on how to recognize and, if possible, manage common mental health disorders, which are all these factors
Okay, so this association that has been created,
What's it?
I said this association that has been created before the mental health. Is it an ordinary person? Can an ordinary person join the association to be trained, or does it have to be a psychiatrist like you?
No. The psychiatrists, there's depth in the number of psychiatrists. So the initiative is to train other people that are interested in mental health and its programs to be able to recognize, teach them the signs and symptoms of common mental health disorders, so that at their own level, especially at the community level, they can identify those at risk of mental health illnesses or those that are suffering from mental health illnesses and manage the ones they can. And of course, we also teach them the red flags as per when to refer to see a psychiatrist, because psychiatrists should be responsible for more than 1 million people, which is not practical. In other climes, we have a psychiatrist to 10,000 people to 1,000 people, which is fair enough. So in this way, we're able to bridge the gap, and of course, there are a lot of groups again that are creating awareness about mental health. Things are getting much better now. In the past, mental illnesses used to be attributed to spiritual causes, and others. But now people are becoming more aware that mental health challenges are actually a medical illness that is treatable.
Okay. So, stigma often prevents people from seeking help, right? So, how do we change the narrative around mental health in our communities? Little communities. There's some people that go through a lot. So, when you come out and you tell somebody you are depressed, especially in our homes, Nigerian homes, when you tell your mother, "Oh, mommy, I'm depressed," you tell you, "Come on, go and eat something. You're hungry." Whereas this is on a deeper level.
Go and pray. Or be strong. Go and pray.
Yes, go and
Yeah,
pray. Thank
I
you. Go
think.
and pray. Or you're not close to God. You understand? And we all know that, most of us know that depression and other mental health is much more deeper than going to pray or going to eat. So how do we change the narrative around mental health in our communities?
Yes, I think we are doing our own bit by way of creating awareness about mental health, raising awareness about mental health, and continuous advocacy. And it's quite impressive because people are beginning to pick up interest in mental health, even those that are not mental health professionals. They are all becoming more and more interested in mental health, and are driving the advocacy to create awareness
Okay.
for mental health. A lot of NGOs are involved, non-civil society organizations, spiritual leaders are also involved in this drive, which is quite encouraging.
Okay, so let's come back to the role of the Nigerian government. So, beyond the awareness campaigns, beyond employment of psychiatrists, beyond the creation of association, what concrete steps should the Nigerian government take to address suicide prevention?
Okay, I think they need to be also the people that are in government have to be rather than um, being stigmatized and running away from anything mental health, because they feel like once you start driving the campaign for mental health, you possibly have someone that has a mental health challenge, which people at that level don't want to be associated with. So they need to all come out and drive the campaign against mental health. They will have an updated mental health bill that is currently in the National Assembly. It was signed into law by the former president, but it has yet been implemented. And all the implementation takes a lot of financing, and it has a lot of collaborations. But most of all, it needs political will. So we need to gather this political will. They need to gather more political will, and be more interested in mental health, because the incidence of mental health challenges is increasing by the day. I think every other day I get to see one or two attempted suicides, and there's no plan. There's no, aside from the WHO Live Life campaign strategy to preventing suicide, I'm not sure the federal government has any program on ground to drive this cause. And even if they do, at least implementing the mental health bill will go a long way in addressing a lot of these issues. So we plead with them to give us the resources needed so that we can put this law into practice.
Okay. So let's lastly, very quickly before we go, let's go back to the community. What actions can the community take? What role can schools, religious institutions, and the civil society, what role can they play in providing safe spaces and early intervention for those at risk? Especially now, I want us to also speak to our mommies and daddies at home, our aunties and uncles, that when you tell them you're depressed or you feel some type of way, they will not tell you go and pray or go and eat. So how we want them to provide safe spaces and early intervention for those that are at risk. So what are the roles that they can play?
Okay. In fact, the community on its own has a big role play when it comes to suicide prevention and identifying mental health challenges. Like at the community level, we should be able to limit access to means of suicide by taking away all this sniper, which is one of the commonest drugs people use in our environment, by making sure that it's not readily available, because most people that commit suicide will just tell you they went to the market, bought sniper, and they took sniper, the ones that attempt suicide, and of course, if people as the community leaders also need to be advocates for mental health. They should be able to encourage people to come out and speak freely about their mental health challenges and not rather be stigmatized. There are some places or cultures that once you just identify as having suffered from a mental health challenge, you are stigmatized. The whole family is stigmatized. Nobody is even going to marry from your family anymore. So all those things have to be addressed. The spiritual leaders too need to also be involved, because they're the go-to people when people start suffering from depression. They need to also be educated about mental health, and they should be able to direct these people to their appropriate quarters, rather than saying things like maybe it's caused by one enemy or the other, or attributing spiritual causes to them. They should be able to properly refer people that are suffering from mental health challenges to the specialist. Then we should also be able to foster life skills among young people. Like we should have maybe social, like then there used to be all these debate groups. All these educative, what do you call it now? Educative societies. They should be able to form like group where people are able to talk freely and support each other, support groups.
You're trying to talk about life support groups, right?
Yeah, support groups within the communities whereby they're able to help each other through their trying periods. Then very key is also the ability to be able to avail people for some of these trainings, so that they can be able to identify and, if possible, manage common mental health disorder. They need to identify early, like those people that are suffering from depression, or the people who are suffering from psychosis. As simple as grief counseling is very important. But here we also only say, you're not supposed to go through the grief process. But it's okay to talk to somebody, even as simple as grieving or bereavement, So we need to all be avail ourselves, or be open-minded to mental health challenges, and the communities should also have safe spaces, whether in the church, in the mosque, within the community hospitals, spaces where people can walk in freely and talk to a counselor and discuss their mental health challenges.
Okay.
Then the parents also should be open to, they should also listen to their children and the younger ones when they discuss their challenges. They should not just show them aside as if maybe they're lazy or they don't want to, they're just pretending. These things are real. Parents that deprive their children of taking antidepressants, because they feel like the child is just pretending. This child has attempted suicide like 3 times. And the commonest cause of suicide is previous suicidal attempt. So those are the issues we all need to open our mind to mental health challenges. And it can happen to anybody. That is why I'm sure the theme for this year's suicide prevention is we all need to change the narrative.
Okay.
As suicide is prevented.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Abdullah. That was Dr. Mustafa Abdullah, a consultant psychiatrist with years in mental health advocacy and treatment. Thank you so much for joining us on this program today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. So, World Suicide Prevention Day, it reminds us that every life matters. In Nigeria, breaking the silence around mental health is the first step towards saving lives. If you or someone you know is struggling, remember you are not alone and help is available. Let us work together to build a society where seeking help is seen as a sign of strength and not weakness. And that wraps up today's program. But before we go, the headlines again. Resident doctor strike. Nigeria's healthcare faces fresh tumor. Labor showdown. Nupeng versus Dangote refinery sparks fuel supply fears. Airpeace pilot indicted for substance use after runway incident. And the foreign scene, Poland and Ukraine tighten security ties amid rising cross-border tension. For more updates and in-depth analysis, follow Politics and Business Television on YouTube and Facebook. Connect with us on Instagram at P&BTV.English and TikTok at P&BTV.English. Remember to subscribe and stay informed. From me, Fatima Abubakar Oyibo, it's bye for now.